Coach Jose Caicedo training on the side today. Just what's his status ahead of this game?
Well, he obviously came off with a slight groin. His groin just tightened up. We don't think it's anything serious. I think he's definitely 60-40 against for the game on Sunday, but he's desperate to play. He's going to go in the gym this afternoon. We're hoping that he might get some training tomorrow. So I think that's the only thing I can say. But in a short turnaround with the travel and everything, it's going to be a last-minute decision.
How important does that make kind of just Diego for you and being able to kind of be filling for you wherever he needs to?
Well, I mean, you saw the other night, you think about, was it 8-9 minutes into the game, how he just came into the game seamlessly. It's not like you maybe put a young player in and you get your second win, you get your first touch, where he just comes in and it's just seamless. And I think this week's been really important to get Diego minutes. The 45 minutes against Kansas City was important. I think when we looked at the Kansas City game, particularly at half-time, we thought, right, who's the players that we're going to probably need at the back end of the week? We didn't think we would probably need Diego that much on Wednesday, but we definitely thought by the end of the week Diego would become really important because of everything that goes with these travels. And like I say, you look at his attitude, you look at the way he's kept himself in incredible condition to play, then he's ready. He always is. He's the safe one. We've also got Joao Ortiz, who I thought before he came out the team was probably one of our better players in those Vancouver game, for instance. I thought he was outstanding. So I think Sunday will be about picking the right team with the right freshness, with the right rotations, going with that.
Do you have any emotions or feelings coming back here?
I didn't think I would, but obviously landing there here yesterday, seeing obviously the guys here, I link it back to when I went back to Old Trafford with Man United. You try and shut it off, you try and close the door, you try and focus on your team. I always think in these situations is that after the game is where you can say hello to everybody. First time back at Old Trafford, I literally just went into the stadium with blinkers on my eyes and tried to perform to the best of my ability for my club and fight for my club. And then after the game, I hugged and kissed and celebrated some incredible friendships with the people that I'd built friendships with, and I see no different on Sunday. I'm here to make this week a 7-point week. I'm here to win a game of football with a club that that I've fallen in love with. But obviously, without the club that we're playing against, I wouldn't be a Poland Timbers player, and without that friendship, the love that I received in this city, I wouldn't be in this position. So, I suppose there is a little bit of emotion.
Phil, good to see you. Diving into that, obviously, it's for Inter Miami. They know who you are. Of course, Inter Miami fans know who you are. For you, touched on different than a regular season game. But how do you look back on your time here during that stint with Inter Miami, trying to help establish them in the early years, and obviously not from afar, seeing what they've become?
Yeah, I mean, I think about my growth as a coach. I'd say that first season was probably one of the most biggest learnings I've had in my career, because I came to a different environment, a different culture, a different country, learning about the cap system. It was a new franchise. Within a week, we'd suffered some sanctions that hit us really hard in that first year. The team, I would say, was not the greatest constructed team in terms of the profiles, in terms of the characters, in terms of the personality. And I'd say then going into my second season, I don't know if you remember, in that first season, we got rid of 19 players and we totally turned around a team into a team that I felt that me and Chris Henderson built ourselves. We built with characters and personalities that we really want, and I felt we built something really special in that second season. I think in terms of I got the Lionesses to the semi-final of the World Cup, but that second season results, I think, was probably one of the most highlights of my managerial career so far, because it was horrendous start to the season. I think we lost the first 6 games. It was a new team constructed, and then we galvanised a DP that was getting a lot of criticism. We got some incredible young players through, and I'd say that second season is similar to what I want to do in Portland. We've got an incredible bunch of young players here. I want to build a culture and a spirit that we had in that second season in Miami, and then the third season is erased from my memory, really, because it was all geared around what's probably happening today. But again, you learn some some fascinating things, and I think the ending was just as much as special as the start, because you sit with people that have invested a lot of time in you, and they give you the respect. And without the three owners at Inter Miami, I don't think I would have got the job at Portland Timbers, and that's a fact. So I owe this club, this city, a lot.
Welcome back, Phil.
Sure.
We're all happy to see you.
Do you know? I always thought that you should have asked me my first question in Miami.
That's right. You should have said it.
Ladies before gentlemen, no?
That's right. Getting to the game on Sunday, obviously it's sentimental. It's going to be, it'll be special for you. What are you expecting tactically? How do you see this Inter Miami team? They're scoring more than any team in MLS, but they've also given up 9 goals in the last 3 games. How do you assess this team? What do you see from them, and how do you think the Timbers match up with them?
Well, I think since the new coach took over, I think they have changed a little bit of their style, really aggressive man-to-man. I think we're going to have to score 2 or 3 goals to win the game, to stay in the game. I think we've seen over the last 2.5 years that even if you're 2-0 up in the game's not finished right to the last minute. And I think that you're going to see 2 footballing sides that are just going to go hell for leather. It's literally just going to be a basketball game, because that's the way, that's the way I want to play football. You can get bogged down. I sat with Connor, the analysis assistant coach, yesterday, and I think he had 96 clips on a certain number 10 in the middle of the field. I said, no, I think we need to probably just concentrate on what we do. It's an incredible stadium. It's an incredible team that they built there that's playing a real aggressive style. But it's a style that I think might suit us as well, because we've got some real speed in the team. We're really good on transition. And I want my players to play with courage. I think when you play against Inter Miami, you play against this level of player, you've got to play with real courage. And that's what I'm excited about.
Phil, I wanted to ask you about, talk about what you build in Inter Miami. A lot of the young guys, Ian Frey, David Ruiz, Noah Allen, you debuted them, you brought them to the first team. How do you feel now when you see them representing their national teams and playing as starters in this Inter Miami that has changed a lot since you left?
Yeah, but I think people obviously see the glitz and the glamour of the signings, but if you add in there Benji Camacho as well, I think when I first came to Inter Miami, the fundamental thing was just to bring through Floridian kids, Inter Miami boys, born and bred, and there is still a large group of players in that group that was on the start when we first came in. So I say that hasn't changed. I think that's a big part of what David wanted at this football club at the start, and that remains. And it makes me very proud. And I say that the correlation is that at Portland Timbers, we invest in young players. We love young players. We see the young players as the heartbeat of this team, and sometimes you're going to get the inconsistencies of which we do. But I think eventually, when you give them trust and belief, and you really invest in them, then they start playing games of football in the biggest games, and that's what you've seen with Noah Allen and Benji Camacho. David Ruiz hasn't played as much football, and Ian Frey is that in the biggest games, probably over the last 2 or 3 years, there's been them players. Noah Allens of the world have been the nucleus of the homegrown. So I think that makes me very proud, because I've played a small part on their journey.
Phil, looking back as I was getting ready for this, looking back at the, some of the interviews that you did before you left into Miami, you talked a lot about the potential of having, a player like Messi on the team. You left Inter Miami June 1st, and then he announces on June 7th, just 6 days later. I want to take you back to that week. What was it like? How did you, when you saw the news that he was coming here, or just letting you go?
I had incredible relationships with the owners, so it didn't just happen in 7 days. It was I at the start of the season, I was under no illusions that probably if he came in, that I wouldn't be here, and that's totally fine. I understood football. One of my best friends in my life is the owner of the football club, so it's not as if we kept secrets from each other during that period. I think what my role was throughout the 2.5 years was to bring stability to that football club, is to bring the young players through, is to get us into the playoffs. There was always going to be a wow moment at that football club, and whether I was involved or not, I knew fully where my position stood. You can feel incredibly sort of like bitter, or you can feel incredibly proud of what you achieved at a football club. And I always look back at that period. Was the first thing I thought to myself was, well, without those three owners, their belief in me, my daughter wouldn't be going through the most incredible education. I wouldn't have a green card. My son wouldn't be playing football in America. My wife wouldn't be having the best time of her life. That, first and foremost, is the most important thing. The football side of it was always a growth. There was always ambition. There was always vision. And whether I was a part of that vision, I was not in control of that. So what I would say is that Inter Miami over the last 3.5 years have took the whole of the MLS onto another level, and every single person that's involved, whether it's you guys or on and off the pitch, should be incredibly excited, because what that's done is they've raised the bar and everybody else has to try and catch up. And it's created a really good rivalries between the leagues. Owners and owners are now competing, which is great. When you've got owners with billionaires, they all want to be on the top of the tree, and now all of a sudden they are spending more money. And so that only helps the league. And I'd say for Portland Timbers, we're a totally different model, but with the same ambition. We want to be the best. I've got an owner that wants to be the absolute best in the MLS, and he wants us to produce the best young football team in the whole of America. Our model's different, but our model is can be equally successful.
Do you have time for just a few follow-ups? Jeremy, you guys have follow-ups?
I'm good.
Michelle, do you have a follow-up?
Let me ask you just what you think about Messi at this point. I mean, you've seen his whole career. You've seen a lot of players. He's 38, going on 39 now. What do you see from him this season?
Do you know what I love? And I loved it with sort of like the other stars that were there, Busquets and Alba last year, was that when they score, they celebrate. They're not here for a holiday. They're not here just to pick up whatever money that they're earning. They're here to win. And there was a game, I think it was in Orlando, they were maybe 2-0 down, and the greatest player in the world is arguing with maybe the goalkeeping coach from Orlando on the bench. And I think that, for me, inspires the whole league, because we've had players in this league that have come here just for a pension, for a payoff. And I think what them guys are doing shows their hunger, their desire to be the absolute greatest every single day. And I show clips of not their skill, I show clips of their hunger and desire, because that is something that I think that's incredible. You see it with Son now in LAFC. You know, this league's difficult, but you have to have a certain thing inside you, whether you're 17 or whether you're 39. And I'm lucky I've got a 40-year-old on the pitch that has the same desire. Maybe not the same skill as the number 10 for Inter Miami, but has the same desire and hunger to go out there and perform. And I think that's a special quality. And without doubt, I was lucky enough to play with one of the greatest in Cristiano, and Sunday I'll be able to coach against one of the greatest, which is an honour.
How much, if at all, do you guys prepare for the gamesmanship part? They clearly, you can see watching the game, they try to hit the referee's head, they know how to surround the ref, they talk to the ref, they come out late at halftime often, which was in Cincinnati this week. How much at all do you prepare the players for that?
Well, I mean, Google maybe after this interview Manchester United in the year 1999. I think we had 14 players around the referee. You know, it brings back great memories. Yeah, we were chasing a referee down the touchline, because I say it gamesmanship, but that's a desire to win. It's a desire to do everything possible to win a game of football, and you know, I think that's a special quality. And you know, I was part of a football club that did that every single week, that tried. You talk about the 0.1% to try and win a game of football, and they're in a position where they've got incredible experience, and we need to use our experience on Sunday to not get involved in anything apart from control the things that we can control. You know, that there are probably going to be things happening on Sunday that are probably some of our guys have probably never seen in their life before, but that you can't control. Control the things about us keeping possession of the ball, us being really good on the counter-attack, us stopping shots from outside the box. You know, these are the things that you can prepare. And I learned a massive lesson when I went to Everton and then went back to Old Trafford, and I saw an Everton player in an Everton dressing room playing against the best team, and I saw the effect of just being in a tunnel, being next to people and I thought to myself, that was the best learning experience about just play the game and not the people that you're playing against, because at the end of the day everyone's wearing the same size shirt, everyone's got the same boots on, and it's going out there to compete. And the best players in the world, when you playing against a team that can compete, have a lot of respect for that team.
What conversations? Sorry, we have time for one last question. Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
It isn't just the fact that this team is playing Messi, though. It's also just the fact that with Messi comes so many extra eyeballs globally. Just how are the players reacting to having just so much extra attention on them for this game?
Well, I think we'll see that on Sunday. What's time kickoff? 6:07 and 34 seconds, something like that. It always amazes me, that one. But you know, I think you can help them prepare for that. But until they set on that field, until they're on that field or in that tunnel, and the next to or playing against a team like this, you just don't know how people are going to be like. The composure, the temperament comes out in that game, and I think that for me is what I'm most excited about, is to see the youngest players, you know, our young players, our team, like how can they compete against the best? And I think this is going to be a real big challenge, test, and excitement for our boys. And like I say, I think you can prepare for an exam, yeah. And when you go into that exam, you can be fully prepared. But until you turn that paper over, you just never know quite what the questions are going to be. You never know how your mind's going to react. You could freeze, you could thrive, or you could do a little bit of both. That is no different than a football game.
You wanna go ahead? Okay, I wanted to ask you about not only you are coming back, but Kamal and Nadi are also coming back to Inter Miami. Have you had? It's nice to see familiar faces. Yes. Did you have some conversations with them?
Yeah, we said the other night that Ari, Kamal, and myself, we're going to get all the tickets for the game because we're from obviously Miami, so all our friends are coming, so nobody else has tickets. And we said that we've got to go to Miami and win. We're not going there for an old pals act. I'm not going there to wave at friends in the stadium. I'm going there to fight. I'm going there to be competitive. I'm going there to win a game of football, which is a massive game for my football club. And Kamal feels exactly the same. I think when you go back to your club, you want to put on a show. When you go back to, when you go back anywhere in life, you go back to people, you want to be competitive, you want to put on a show, you want to really compete, and you want to win. And that's the attitude of Ari, of Kamal. My analysis, Connor was at the club for a year and a half as well. So this is a game where, you know, we don't particularly need a team talk because the internal motivation is from within.
That's the lead right there.
Thank you.
That's the lead right there.